What's up, Vintage Moto fans? Welcome to episode 12 of A Bike and a Beer, the show where every Saturday I feature an incredible vintage motorcycle and pair it with a really cool beer too. If you've been joining me every week, thank you so much for your support. If you like what I'm doing here, feel free to subscribe in that lower corner there. And thank you for joining me for that theatrical intro as well. Sorry to disappoint, I wasn't actually racing that bike, but it sure was fun to make that video. Folks, this is a one-of-a-kind Lyster Triumph. Now, this bike was made by two people, really. The amazing frame builder Colin Lyster and his good buddy Ed LaBelle. If you don't know those names, don't worry about it. We're going to go over that in this episode. But only about 5 of these frames were made. Nobody really knows where the other ones are. If you do, feel free to leave a comment. So, what beer to go with this amazing machine here? Well, it's Halloween weekend. We've got a purple framed motorcycle here, so my lovely wife was able to find this gem from Allagash Brewing, which is in Portland, Maine, and it's called Haunted House. It's a hoppy dark ale. It's got a lovely description on the website, so I'm going to put it here so I don't butcher it. But it's a hoppy dark ale. Let's check it out. Ooh, I taste some coffee in there. That's nice. One of the adjectives on the can is roasty, and I would agree with that. It is roasty. Happy Halloween, everyone. What a lovely, interesting, dark beer. Okay, so we're going to go into all the components of this bike, which not that many people have done. You can find some history on this bike, but it's kind of all about the amazing guys who made it. So in this episode, I'm hoping to really dive deep and go through all this stuff. Before we do that, let's learn a little bit about the makers of this bike. So Colin Lyster was born in Rhodesia, which is in Africa. It's close to South Africa. And he was a motorcycle racer, but he was an absolute wizard at making frames. He made steel frames really, really rigid, which you want in road racing, and really, really light. Like half the weight of a production British frame. And he had a buddy named Ed LaBelle. Ed LaBelle was a 3-time Canadian road racing champion, and he had a motorcycle shop in Pennsylvania. He sold about every British manufacturer there was, and some others like Ducati. But so a couple of road racers, they got together. They did some business ventures in the early 70s, but they put together this awesome machine. Ed provided the motor, which is an 800cc Triumph Twin. Started out as a 650. It's a 1965 cases, and out of a Thunderbird. But I'm sure it is full of a bunch of really cool period correct internal modifications, which we can't see, but we can imagine them. And thankfully I was able to get this bike running, which I don't think this bike has run in about 15 years. I was actually able to find a YouTube video of one of the previous owners running it, but I think that was the last time it was run. Although it has passed hands a fair amount of time since then, I think everyone's just been looking at it. So I fired it up. It sounds glorious. Alright, let's look at what this bike is really made of here. So not only was Colin Lyster an incredible frame builder, but he also revolutionized the motorcycle world with his braking system. He did that with the triple disc brake system. Now that just means there's 2 discs in the front and a single in the rear. You could get his kit. They always were mounted to Cheriani forks, and he designed the whole thing from the rotors to the calipers. He often used master cylinders off of other bikes, like this one's off of a Norton, for example. He actually promoted it to a lot of the British manufacturers, but they're so old school they didn't pick it up. So he ended up selling the patent to Lockheed actually, and then eventually Honda ended up with it, and we all know where that went. This beautifully handcrafted alloy front fender is incredible. It hugs the tire perfectly well. These rims, this bike has 18-inch rims front and rear. These are Barani records, and it's a shouldered alloy rim. It's perfect for this bike. Everything on this bike is compact and low. Okay, let's take a closer look at this plum-colored frame. You can notice the smaller diameter tubing. I would expect that it's probably a little bit thinner wall as well. And if you look close, you can see there's some paint worn away here. It's assembled by bronze brazing, not TIG welding or MIG welding. So that's a bit unique. You don't see that too often nowadays. This bodywork is also unique. It reminds me of Evan Wilcox's work. I'm not sure if Evan made this. Evan, if you're watching and you did make this, feel free to let me know. But it reminds me of his work. It's also a very 70s with that tail section, which I've seen on a lot of images of old racing bikes. But this oil tank is also handcrafted aluminum. You can see the fuel tank has undergone some crashes. This bike was crashed at Laconia. Both Colin Lyster and Ed LaBelle raced this bike. So I'm not sure which one actually crashed it, but it's been healed up a bit, but good old battle scar. Nothing adds character like that. Moving to the back, we've got Ceriani shocks back here. Colin Lyster also handmade these swing arms. And you may not be able to see it from the video, but they're kind of oblong, like an oval shape here. So this bike did not have a kickstart on it because it's a road racing bike, but I don't have a roll starter, and this bike has no brakes. I live in a very mountainous area, but I did see that if you pop this clip off, you can flip the shifter back, and I was able to just put a BSA starter on here and give it a kick, and here it go. Clip-on handlebars here with a Norton Master Cylinder by Lucas. Little dip switch here for the headlight that may or may not have been used. And this looks like a Doherty clutch lever here. BTE throttle, very period correct. And a Doherty grip over here with a kill switch that actually looks like it might be from a Spanish bike. Smith's chronometric tachometer. No need for a speedo on this bike, just a good old tach will do. I believe these hubs are also designed and engineered by Colin Lyster as well. Check out this no frills, beautiful sprocket. Neat linkage here on the rear brake system. I love these custom made engine brackets to hold this beautiful motor in place. 800cc modified 650 twin Triumph. The Webco points cover, nothing fancy under there, no electronic ignition, just standard points. This is also a beautiful piece of kit from Webco with the rocker feed for the oil. Twin amyl carburetors. These are 932s. You can see they're a little bit more modern. I would estimate that those were added about 15 years ago when one of the previous owners got this bike running again. Some Bosch 12-volt coils in there. At one point or another, somebody put lights on this bike. So I would estimate maybe somebody did a bit of cafe racing around town. On the number plate, we've got the number 3. And that is because this is frame number 3 of maybe 5 frames that were made by Lyster to support Triumph motors. And like I said, this is the only one left. So number 3 is still here and rocking. Very period correct seat with some cool stitching as well. All right, everyone. That's going to wrap it up for episode 12 of A Bike and a Beer. Hope it was fun. It was really great to share this amazing bike with you, this one-of-a-kind piece. And I hope everyone has a lovely Halloween. And we'll see you next Saturday with a whole new bike and a whole new beer. Cheers! Woo! Welcome to episode... I can't do it with you there.
Well, can I...